Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Terry Hildebrandt of the Fielding Graduate University. I'm the Director of Evidence-Based Coaching at Fielding. We're really excited today to have one of our Evidence-Based Coaching Professional Series workshops on LinkedIn 2020, what you need to know for your brand, your business, and your network. We have Howard Fox today. He's an alum of Fielding from our Evidence-Based Coaching program. He's also an alum of our master's program in ODL. So we're really pleased that he could join us and share some of his wisdom around LinkedIn and marketing. So welcome, Howard. If you wouldn't mind to maybe introduce yourself a little bit more and then begin your presentation.
Terry, thank you so much for the invitation to present. And it's been a long time coming. We've just talked about this for a while. So I appreciate that the day is here and that everybody is taking time out of their day to join us. My background, I mean, I started Fielding back in 2008, which seems like so long ago. My student loan was officially paid off last month, so I'm really happy. And I am what I share with people is a recovering IT business consultant. I was in the IT world for many years and decided to go back to school. I found Fielding, and being a consultant, I was always on the road, so distance learning was just a wonderful place. And the opportunity then to go through the leadership, go through the coaching program has just been phenomenal. And one of those consistent tools that I have taken and continued with along the way is my work with LinkedIn, because I've always used it and continue to use it today, even more than just having a profile up and running. But I use it to share content. I use it to do research. I use it to take part in conversations. And so my LinkedIn work is really kind of continued as I have gone in through with my profession as a coach, as a consultant, and working with clients. So everything from building profiles to teaching people how to do lead generation, helping companies audit their LinkedIn presence with their staff's LinkedIn presence and how they're using the tool. And so that consistent thread is kind of continued with my work. Eventually got laid off from a company back in 2012 and have been on my own ever since. And I do career coaching, leadership coaching, but one of the consistent threads is LinkedIn. So what I hope to show you today is perhaps might not be something completely new for you. Maybe you've seen bits and pieces of it before, but what I hoping to do is just to give you my point of view. I do use LinkedIn rather extensively. I'm on it all the time, and I will share with you because someone will ask this question: should I invest in, in upgrading my LinkedIn account? And just in the spirit of full disclosure, I use Sales Navigator. I use it a lot, but a lot of what we'll chat about today, you don't need to upgrade your account, and we'll explain some of those reasons why. And as Terry alluded to early on, if you have questions, we're going to have plenty of time, and I'm going to kind of go through these slides. There's like 20 of them, but I'm going to go fairly quickly because I really want to get back to your specific questions so we can make this as ultimate value as possible, since you're investing your Saturday with us. By the way, Terry, the gentleman or the young lady who produced this image for me, it's fantastic. Thank you very much. I've shared it to all of my social sites already, so thank you so much. Real quickly, I did a search yesterday for some statistics. I usually have a stat slide in my deck, and as of 2019, there's probably in the 610 million user range for LinkedIn right now. So imagine 610 million users actively each month. There's probably 303 million users. Almost 50% of us are visiting LinkedIn every day. We're Fortune 500 companies are on LinkedIn, 92%. Recruiters are on LinkedIn. So if you or perhaps a client you're working with is looking for a new opportunity or a career change, recruiters are hanging out on LinkedIn as well. If you are, you know, we all spend different amounts of time on LinkedIn. I'm very extensive, but some people will spend maybe 10, 15 minutes a day. If you're hunting for something, a collaboration, an opportunity, maybe you're going to spend more time. So really the bottom line with this slide is LinkedIn is a business professional networking tool, and there are just huge opportunities to find what I call your ideal client or an ideal collaboration partner, because I actually have begun collaborating with folks that I have met on LinkedIn. When I talk about LinkedIn, I talk about it in terms of kind of a 5-step process. And I didn't want to seed or sell anything today, obviously, because I want this to be educational, but I wanted to use the lens that I look at LinkedIn via, and I look at your brand, which is your profile itself. I look at discovery, which is using LinkedIn search engine to find what I call ideal clients, customers, collaboration partners. Maybe you're looking to find content because you're doing some research on a topic and you want to know what other people are talking about that topic, with or for. I look at the connection process. How do we connect on LinkedIn? Who's visiting my profile? Have they visited my profile and sent me an invitation to connect? Have they sent me an invitation to connect and never visited my profile? I look at those things, and I can work with my clients to begin to look at those things. I'm very big on thank yous and follow-up. I don't just want to be another statistic in that 610 million number. I want what I call good quality connections. I'm not looking for the quantity. I believe, and I always use the Bill Gates or the Steve Jobs example. If Bill Gates was one of your first degree connections, does it really matter? And you knew that Bill Gates would reply back to you or respond to something you shared. Does it really matter how many connections you have if you knew Bill Gates was going to respond to you? Now, he's kind of busy now with our current crisis, but I know he's going to reply back to me. So I always pursue quality versus quantity, and I always want to thank people for the connections. And then perhaps the most important part after we get past the first 4 steps is this nurturing. And that's where I think a lot of the value you're going to get out of today's session. This is where this will come from, is this step. So again, my goal ultimately is just get comfortable with LinkedIn and look at it as an opportunity. If you haven't already begun to use it, perhaps you are using it, maybe you'll learn some little tips and tricks along the way. Certainly ask questions. So let's talk real quickly about the brand. The brand is what, somebody once said the brand is how people talk about you when you're out of the room. Well, I look at the brand too, is when I come and visit your LinkedIn profile, if you have one, are you somebody that I want to get to know and to meet? So I'm looking at images, I'm looking at profile photos, I'm looking at your banner image, I'm looking at your headline, your about section, which used to be called the summary section, and I'm looking at the words you're using in LinkedIn. Are you inviting me into a conversation with you? And so we all want to look and meet people that we feel we will like, perhaps has knowledge that we would like to learn more about, or perhaps a experience we would like to know more about. So your brand is an important aspect of LinkedIn, and it's how we begin to initiate conversations. And I will share with you, if you're on LinkedIn, other people are looking for you as well. It's just not you looking for them. So how we describe ourselves, what we share, the conversations we get involved in, that's all a part of our brand on LinkedIn. When we think about brand, I always ask my clients, customers, 3 questions. What issues do you care about that will assist your connections and your ideal clients? What problems or issues do you hope to solve as a result of your work? Now, we're all professionals. Going through fielding, we're learning some of us are learning some very specific skills. We have expertise around coaching, leadership development, change, conflict, emotional intelligence. Laura Belston, nonprofits. Joanne Ricci is big in the nonprofit area. What opportunities will you hope to open for your connections or your future clients as a result of them investing in you? And I encourage my clients to work through their profile and their brand on LinkedIn by always using these questions as a filter in how you respond. And I do want to say too, LinkedIn, your profile is not an electronic version of your resume. There are some overlaps, but your profile photo, your headline, your banner image, your about section, that's your brand. Now, we all know this gentleman here. This is Terry. These are elements of his brand here. You can see, and I talk about what is professionally branded. So we want to come across as professionals in how we present ourselves on LinkedIn. So you look at Terry with his profile photo. You can look at the banner image. Again, we want to invite people in to learn more about us. Look at Terry's headline: CEO, executive coach, organization development consultant, coach educator, coaching supervisor. These are all important keywords or skills that people could be using to search for someone with that expertise. And if they do search via those keywords, they're going to find Terry. And then at the bottom of this slide here, you see the about section. The about section used to be called the summary section. And what we're making up in this area here is I call it your prime pieces of real estate. Again, having a profile photo that's good quality, that speaks to that you're someone I would want to meet and get to know and learn more about. A banner image that talks about, again, and helping answer those 3 questions. Now, perhaps you put some words in that banner image that further speak to the work that you do. The headline, now Terry has a skills-based headline, which is definitely searchable, but then there's also what I call strength-based headlines, where you share with people, here's the problems I solve for people in these areas, or some type of hybrid. If you take anything out of today's session, is go back to your LinkedIn profile, and are you pulling your headline directly from your most current experience section? Now, I'm remiss, before today's call, we invited everybody to go out to my website, foxcoaching.com. If you scroll to the bottom, there's a self-assessment there, and I rate every section of LinkedIn according to some of these key criteria that we're talking about right now, and then some. So do go out there, get the self-assessment. You're going to just add your name, email address. You can opt out afterwards once you get that document. But you want to pay attention to all of these sections plus the keywords that you're using. And every one of these sections is an element of your brand. The next most important piece of LinkedIn is what I call discovery. And this is using LinkedIn as a research tool. So even though you have a profile, if I'm looking for content, I'm looking for people who have expertise in specific areas. So I'm very much using LinkedIn search engine. And I would really encourage you to become very proficient at learning how to do what are basic searches, which is part of LinkedIn's free subscription, or advanced searches, which you will then need to invest in a in a upgraded package that LinkedIn provides. Either way, you can become very proficient at doing research, looking for people, content, skills, organizations, groups, just by learning how to use LinkedIn search engine. You can filter by people, companies, groups, topics, jobs, and also LinkedIn is a job board. So like Indeed, Simply Hired, Glassdoor, Monster, I don't even know if that's still around. The job board is actually a wonderful place to do research. So maybe you're looking to take your work into an organization. Maybe it's industry specific, healthcare, distribution, telecommunications, et cetera. Using LinkedIn's job board for yourself, for your clients, is an effective way to do research. So getting to know that feature as well is very important. LinkedIn as a research tool is really about understanding and figuring out what those keywords are. It's geography, where are we looking to do our search? What industries are we interested in? What are people's job titles? What's their seniority level? Perhaps we're looking company-specific headcounts. My ideal clients are probably somewhere in a headcount of 10 up to maybe 200. If it gets more complicated than that, I usually have to partner with somebody or go in under somebody else's organization. So I care about headcount, care about revenue, perhaps university affiliation. How many of you are following Fielding's company page, which within that company page, there are the alumni at Fielding. And then I want to encourage you to start to investigate the use of hashtags that are pertinent to the work that you're doing. Hashtags are just a wonderful way to engage with people on LinkedIn and to network with them, and also create hashtags that are your own, or use other popular hashtags. I do a podcast that we publish twice a week, and I've got my podcast name as a hashtag, and I also use podcast interview. Now, podcast interview, if I do a search, my podcast will come up. If I do my podcast my name of my podcast as a hashtag, just my episodes will come up. So try to figure out what your pertinent names are. Talk a little bit about basic search. I'm not going to go too deep into this because I'd rather get into the questions. The important piece is up in LinkedIn are keywords and learning how to do Boolean searches. I have a document which I'll share with Terry. We can give to everybody. It's how to do Boolean searches in LinkedIn, and also how to use Google to also do some of these Boolean searches. Because if you don't want to upgrade LinkedIn, you can use basic searches using Google, which is very important and effective as well. And by the way, I shared this image because this is a game we go to a bar to play, okay? It's like, I forget what this thing is called, but soccer players, okay? That's basic search. If we really want to amp up our game, we've got to make an investment in the pro version of LinkedIn. And I use Sales Navigator, but the reason I like Sales Navigator is because I have a lot more filters to use. I'll say this and then we'll go on. You can upgrade LinkedIn to Sales Navigator for a month free, and then you have to pay for it. So if you want to have a conversation about is Sales Navigator right for you, we can have that conversation. If you want to take it for a test drive for a month, that's great. Then you have to make a decision whether you want to continue to invest in it. But I would not sell LinkedIn Sales Navigator short. It can be a very good investment and something to think about. Again, there's company-specific searches I can do as well by industry within LinkedIn, in addition to just the demographics that LinkedIn is collecting from my profile. Okay? So I like it. And again, I use it a lot. It might not be right for you, but certainly consider at least doing an upgrade for a month. The discovery piece is where you go to find the people that you are interested in and want to meet, or maybe you have a client that needs help in using LinkedIn. One of the first places I tell people to go to is your alumni network. So this is just some screen grabs from the LinkedIn company page in the alumni tab. We have 5,437 folks on LinkedIn from Fielding. We can see where they live, where they work. We can see what they do. We can see what they studied, and we can see what they're skilled at and how you're connected. If we were on LinkedIn right now, if I was to scroll down, I would see the people who match out to these filters. So as I start to click on these little colored bars, the number of people that match those search criteria is going to start to shrink, and I can see who those profiles are. And so I would encourage people, go out to the company page, click on the alumni tab, and start to look at other Fielding alumni. And again, this is very important if you or your client are in a job search. If we talk about the next important aspect of LinkedIn in this my 5-step formula, it's the aspect of how to connect. I will tell you, I get a lot of invitations to connect from people, and all they have done, they haven't even visited my profile. They just click connect, sends out an invitation, and I get a message that says, I'd like to add you to my professional network on LinkedIn. Sometimes I do get a message that I'd like to connect with you. And it's like, an example here is, hey, Howard, I see you're a business coach, and I am too. I have a lot of respect for what you do. Would you like to connect? Tricia. I will tell you, again, perhaps because I'm so familiar with this, these are canned messages. I look every day, twice a day, in the morning, in the afternoon, who's visited my profile. And if I get an invitation to connect and there's not a message, I will go out to a profile, have a look at it. Is this somebody I really want to connect with? If they have sent me a message on LinkedIn, I also want to see, have they visited my profile? Okay, because I can send a message to connect and not visit someone's profile. I want to know people took the time to look at my profile, learn more about me before they sent me a generic message like this. Now, I've had conversations where, if I'm in a spirit of abundance, I should be connecting with everybody. I will tell you, after I connect with somebody with this kind of a message, what typically happens right after that is I get the pitch. They want to do business with me, okay? So they don't even get to know me. They're right into pitching me, hey, I can help you. And I see that a lot, especially with other LinkedIn experts doing lead generation. What I like to do is send a much more custom message. And what I encourage my clients to do, and I encourage anybody to do, is come up with a set of custom messages that you can use so that you literally can copy and paste them. Once you find a list of folks you want to connect with, copy and paste them, and you just have to really customize the name. But I'll say, like, hey, hello, Neil. I discovered you on LinkedIn, see that you run a software business. I always tell people I'm a recovering IT business consultant. A little humor there. I help IT companies grow their business by connecting with their ideal clients on LinkedIn. Let's connect too and start a conversation. Now, this is somewhat formulaic in terms of this message. My encouragement is to be a little bit more custom with your potential connection, collaborator, ideal client. But the point is, I'm doing a little bit more in-depth research before I send an invitation to connect. And I'm certainly not doing what you saw in the previous slide, which is very generic. I look at sending customized invitations as just being authentic. I want people to, if they want to get to know me, they're going to connect. If they don't want to get to know me, that's fine. I'm not going to lose any sleep over that, but I at least want to come across as being authentic, and I encourage my clients to do the same as well. And then I also encourage a thank you message. After somebody connects with me, I want to send them a message, which then starts to give me an opportunity to follow up and nurture those connections, which is the next step in this process. Is after I connect, I want to look at what can I start to share with my connections that will help them get to know more about me and my work. Now, this image, if you can see it, is a bunch of plants growing on the windowsill. That's the nurturing process. We go from, we're not just collecting connections, but we're looking to stay in touch with our first degree connections so that they become high value networking and business leads. We want to follow up messages, and they'll include like a LinkedIn post. So you go to LinkedIn, and like I did today, hey, really excited to facilitate this webinar for my alma mater, Fielding Graduate University, on this topic. Maybe I write an article on LinkedIn. LinkedIn's articles are otherwise known as blogs. Maybe I share a white paper, or I share a link to a webinar that I facilitated. I'm looking for opportunities to stay in touch with my connections as well as the other members of the LinkedIn universe. And with this combination of content sharing plus my keywords in my messages and my use of hashtags, I'm really creating the opportunity for people to get to know more about me and my work. And at this point, there's the opportunity then to start to have conversations. So the nurturing process is where your activity on LinkedIn turns this platform more than just having a profile, which is your brand, but beginning to use LinkedIn to create opportunities. Now, whether the opportunity is a collaborator, a partner, or a client, it depends on what your goal was in that moment, but nurturing is the most important feature. So advanced nurturing is the, going into LinkedIn on the homepage and starting a post. So I just alluded to a post I did today. I had a brief message, thank you, Fielding Graduate. We're excited to facilitate a webinar at Fielding. I had that wonderful banner image that was created for me, and I shared that as well. I had some hashtags there, and that's how I started today. And then I shared that on LinkedIn, and I also created a similar feature on Facebook as a status update as well. So the key for LinkedIn to really create opportunities is not just to share the content, but also to have a consistent content strategy. So with LinkedIn, and I'm going to have a metaphor for this in a minute, it's not one and done, but it's creating a plan that you take content that you've created, that you're working on, and drip it onto LinkedIn, either via status update or an article on a regular basis, consistent basis. So some of the advanced nurturing hints are repurpose your blogs. If you have a blog that you write, if it's on your website or a other blog site, repurpose portions of it on LinkedIn. Typically, I would recommend in the form of a new article on LinkedIn, where you then give people an opportunity to go back to your website to read the entire article. Turn your blog. So if you have blogs, you can turn those into actual podcasts. And that's something I do for some of my clients. Those podcasts, we take the blog, we turn it into a podcast that goes on YouTube, and then we embed that YouTube video back into an article on LinkedIn. We also repurpose our Facebook Live recordings. I could take today's recording from Terry. I won't do it because copywriting issues and permissions issues, but I could actually take this recording and embed that video into LinkedIn as an article. And again, I'm using hashtags to ensure interested parties can find that content. So the key to success on LinkedIn is to have the strategy that's consistent. In this time of the COVID-19, I mean, your clients, your loved ones, they're all looking for opportunities to stay connected and to really, to minimize the stress and really just the aspects that are going on. We can use content that we know more about than anybody else and start to share that on LinkedIn in the form of posts and blogs. And so it's just a great opportunity because people right now are clamoring for content. We were averaging 4,000 viewers a month for the podcast and 500 downloads a month. We are now in the last 2 months over 6,000 viewers and about 600 downloads. It's because people are clamoring for content. I'm going to real quickly share my use case for my podcast because it applies to LinkedIn. So what I do, I record a podcast a couple times a week. And I host, professionals, authors, etc. What I then do is I publish that piece of content once my editing team gets finished with it onto YouTube. I then take that YouTube video and I publish it onto my website, my podcast website. I then take that podcast that is now on my website, and that picture there with the black triangle in the middle, with the white triangle and the black box, that's a video file, okay? I can then take that video file and insert that into a post on LinkedIn. In this case, that picture is of my LinkedIn company page for my podcast. But then I share that content out to the LinkedIn timeline, okay? So I've created a piece of content in step 1. I've shared it at step 2. I've shared it again in step 3. I now have shared it again in step 4A and again in 4B. So I create something once and I shared it multiple times, but I'm not done yet, folks. I feel like Billy Mays. I then publish what I shared on my LinkedIn out onto Facebook, okay? So now I've got a Facebook page for my podcast. After I share it there, I then post it to the main Facebook timeline. So what I've done, I've created one piece of content, the podcast. You, for example, have created one piece of content, your blog or your article, but now you've got 2, 3, 4, 4A and 4B. So that's 2, 4, 6, 6 places to post that content. And then that's actually not even all of it, because I also post links back to my podcast onto Twitter, Pinterest, if it's a children's book, and onto Buzzsprout, which is the main podcast platform that goes out to a lot of other sites. So the lesson here is this is how you nurture on LinkedIn and anywhere else where you are sharing your brand about the work that you do. Okay, so really this entire process of LinkedIn can be accomplished. Branding, discovery, connection, thank you, nurturing can be accomplished manually using LinkedIn. I do want to caution you, think twice before you invest in any program that promises that they can get you new clients if you invest in their program. This with LinkedIn, this is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Creating a marathon is having content over and over again and consistently being shared. We're about ready to get into, the Q&A and the more interactive piece, but I do want to invite you. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, my company page on Facebook, my Success Podcast page, Twitter, and then I've got my web page and my podcast page. And so definitely think of what I would sit down and start to think about is, what is my content plan? How do I want to share my brand where are the best places for me to share about my work and to get people engaged in what I do. Terry, that would be it in
Wonderful. Thank you,
41
Howard.
minutes or less.
Great job. Excellent. What a powerful overview of LinkedIn and lots of great tips. We do have some questions already in the chat room. I'm going to call on Susie. Susie, would you like to come live and ask your question?
Sure. My question, and I was clicking around in LinkedIn and have since answered it, but I was trying to figure out how I, as a or as a regular LinkedIn user, could see the traffic to my site, who's checking my page out. And I was directed to my profile page, and I think about a third of the way down, there's some stats there, and I was clicking around and seeing who's been looking at me. So thank you.
Sure. And just so everybody knows, if you are a basic LinkedIn user, you always will see the last 5 people that visited your profile. Now, some of the folks, some of what you'll see is LinkedIn's trying to get you to upgrade. And some people's profiles are going to be hidden because a lot of recruiters, other folks, maybe don't have the security set, so you may not know who the person is that's viewing your profile. But I would make it a practice, beginning of the day, end of the day, check who's visiting your profile, look at those people's profiles, and if you think there'd be a good connection, send them an invitation. You know, hey, I saw that you were, you looked at my profile, sounds like you're doing some great work. Hey, let's connect on LinkedIn and start a conversation. Thank you, Susie.
Excellent. Thank you, Howard. And Howard, by the way, I posted in the chat room all of the social media sites for Fielding. I know a lot of people aren't aware how many we have, and obviously we promoted your event today on LinkedIn. And I do encourage everyone, if you would like to support Fielding, you can forward and repost all of our events to reach a bigger audience. So it's one of our core strategies for recruiting at the university.
Taking that link that you shared on the site and then posting that as either as a timeline update or even embedding it into an article and adding your spin to it is a wonderful way to stay engaged with people, and highly encourage it. So you're actually helping people create content.
Excellent. Anyone else have a question that they'd like to unmute themselves and ask Howard, or a comment that you might have?
This is Viv Hawkins. I have a question, Howard.
Sure.
It has to do with endorsements. How important are they, and to what extent should we attempt to solicit them?
Endorsements have been on and off the radar for quite a while. Which is more important is well, first of all, the endorsement is nothing more than a keyword. So if that keyword where that endorsement lies is important to the work that you're doing, I would want you to ensure you're using that elsewhere in your profile, perhaps up in the about headline or the about section. To be specific about answering your question, I would rather you pursue recommendations so people can talk about your work. And and the reason I say that is because endorsements is far down into your profile. Unless somebody really wants to know about you and your work, they may never navigate that far down. But if that keyword where that endorsement resides is important, just make sure your keyword's there. But back to also the recommendations, I would rather see you go out and get recommendations for your work. If people are busy, write the recommendation for them and then give them the opportunity to, make any adjustments. Also, you have to be connected to somebody to get the recommendation. So that's kind of my view of the world with with the endorsements.
Okay. Susan, I see you typed a message. Would you like to come on live?
That's okay. I think my message says it.
Okay.
Thank you, Howard. I appreciate all this.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate it.
So here's the question, Howard. Thank you, Susan. What are some of the results you have seen from doing all this promotion on LinkedIn? And have you found that there's a good return on investment for your time and energy?
So first of all, the short answer is yes. There is some qualifications here. So a lot of my work is working with clients on LinkedIn. So I am on LinkedIn in service of my clients. The podcasting, let me use that as the example. So I produce this podcast. One of the strategies I have is finding folks that are in the PR space or the publishing space. And so I actually have found someone on LinkedIn here in Chicago, and now she sends me her book authors that she helps to promote, and I podcast with them. She then helps, by doing that work, she helps get me speaking engagements. And then if I have a guest on my podcast that, a lot of people write books. A lot of people are self-published. You don't get rich self-publishing a book, okay? But if people feel very strongly about the book and want to go out there and do some speaking engagements, this individual helps people get speaking engagements. So, or they need help with PR. So what I'll do is I'll take one of my guests who expresses we'd like people to learn more about our work. I'll make that introduction back to this individual. And so I'm creating an affiliate relationship with her. If she signs up my client, I get a finder's fee. So we're both helping each other grow our business. I've got a call coming up with a local independent bookstore because all our bookstores are closed right now. Okay, I want to do virtual webinars with authors who are going to have their books in particular bookstores. So I use LinkedIn to essentially initiate those conversations. And I've got a conversation right after this webinar with one of those bookstores. So that to me is a wonderful return on the investment. I've gotten lots of clients on LinkedIn because of the work that I do.
So we have another question.
Thank you
By
so
the way,
much.
sure. By the way, I look at my LinkedIn, I use the term side hustle, okay? There's a lot of aspects to my work on LinkedIn, but it's one piece of the work that I do. It's not my entire body of coaching development work. But I kind of figured out where my pillar of brilliance is, and I focus just on that. I don't want to be everything to everybody.
So Howard, we got a couple questions on hashtags, on how they work. Where do you put them? How do you use them? Maybe some best practices around hashtags.
Sure. You can put your hashtag in the body of, for example, the headline, in your about section, your experience section. So for example, one of my hashtags is podcast interview. So anybody that's interested in being on a podcast and they're searching on LinkedIn, up in the search field, they could do hashtag podcast interview. So anybody like me that's using that hashtag, they're going to show up in the search results. Hashtags also apply on Twitter and on Facebook. Simply to put a hashtag for the sake of putting a hashtag, that won't get you anywhere. What you have to do is make sure it either is common enough that as many people are searching for it. Okay, and you can put a hashtag in the search field on LinkedIn. In fact, we go back to this. So if I put a hashtag on coaching, if I could spell, $98,941 people are searching, are following that hashtag for coaching. Okay, so now take your area. So like Laura Belston, social plus emotional intelligence, and I'm kind of calling out people's names because I know them. Joanne Ricci is nonprofits, and you could put hashtag nonprofit, hashtag social emotional intelligence. Now, if there is additional area of expertise within your work, maybe you add you can add different hashtags. So, having, I would say, 4 to 6 hashtags on your profile. If you write an article, I definitely want to end an article or even a status update with hashtags. If you go to my profile today and you look at my activity, which is right here, okay, this was my status update today. I am using hashtag LinkedIn, hashtag training, hashtag webinars. So anybody that searches for any of those hashtags, my post is going to come up. If I wrote an article on it, my article is going to come up. So good use of hashtags, the common ones as well as ones that are specific. I use Success Insight Podcast for every podcast episode. So I know if anybody searches for me on LinkedIn, my episodes are going to come up.
And Howard, just by the way, I always include the following 6 on every single post that I do for fielding, and it's coach, hashtag EBC, hashtag fielding, hashtag coach training, hashtag coaching, and hashtag evidence-based coaching. And you, over time, you'll actually, Facebook will create your own web page. So you'll be able to see all my posts for the last 2 years that way.
Perfect. Yeah. So you're doing the right way. I would definitely take some time, whatever your content strategy is, your brand strategy is figure out what your hashtag is. Simply to post a hashtag for the sake of posting a hashtag, that's not going to get you the traction you're looking for.
Yeah. And just to make it clear, you just manually type them in. It's not like a pull-up menu or anything like that.
Well,
it's just,
what'll happen, there's some artificial AI, artificial intelligence going in behind the scenes, some learning. So when I start to post something, my frequent hashtags are going to start to come up as options to select, so I don't have to type it all the time.
we have another question.
Sure.
Given COVID and the ensuing uncertainties, what value do you think LinkedIn will have for working differently?
Well, for one thing, LinkedIn, if you have an advanced account on LinkedIn, LinkedIn has a wonderful learning platform. It used to be called Lynda. Now it's called LinkedIn Learning. If you have employees that are quarantined in their home, you can get enterprise or individual subscriptions to LinkedIn Learning, so you can continue your professional development. I think writing content about, there's a lot right now, stress, resilience, work-life balance, virtual education are all content that people are writing about. They're trying to position themselves with articles and sharing of content on LinkedIn. So this is a great platform to see what are other people doing and around the COVID-19 crisis. And so think about what work you're doing and then start to do some searches about how is this then affecting my specific niche area while we're in this crisis. So use the search engine to find content. I think it's a wonderful time to work on your profile. Some of us, well, my commute is about 50 feet from the bedroom to my desk. Some of us, have a little more time on our hands. Maybe we do have kids or whatever, but investing in beefing up your profile. If you've got clients, you can suggest they're working on their profile as well. Starting to write content, figuring out what blogs you have can I put on LinkedIn and repurpose. So, this crisis has created an opportunity for us. It's serious as end all, but it's also created some opportunities for us.
Hey, Howard.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about groups, LinkedIn groups? How do you use them, and how do you join them?
To be very honest, I don't use LinkedIn groups.
No? Okay.
No. I'm a member of a bunch of groups, probably Fieldings, I'm sure. I'm a member of a nonprofit that I coach at here. I have found that there's just not a lot of engagements within a group.
Okay.
I actually like, again, this is my personal opinion. Folks may disagree. I actually would prefer Facebook groups over a LinkedIn group, because on a Facebook group, I can actually share content, like an article or something. Getting people to talk and engage within a group is very, very difficult. Even the threads that you share on LinkedIn, people might like something, they may comment and say, hey, nice article. You know, I want a comment that says, you know, nice article, have you thought about this? Or what about this? Or, you know, I didn't agree with you. You don't get that kind of a dialogue in groups. And I would rather put my energy in other areas that I know are going to get me much more traction.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, you know, I think, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
This is Marion. I have a quick question.
Hi, Marion.
I have thousands of connections now.
Sure.
And my connection requests now are exclusively people I don't know and who have not looked at my profile. What
Okay.
criteria should I use to decide whether to accept?
You know, you and I are talking on the same issue here. My criteria, so I want to know, I always look at someone's profile. I want to know, have they visited me? Why do I think they want to connect with me? Are we part of Fielding? Are we a member of a group, a nonprofit, an organization? A lot of people just throw connections, and then right after it's the pitch to do business. So I have a set of, I don't follow it 100% of the time, maybe 90%, 95%. I want to know you looked at my profile. I want to know you sent me an invitation to connect. I then want to know, how do I know you? Who do I know that you know? Is there a reason why we would be a good connection for each other? So I don't connect with everybody, and I think you should be you should use some due diligence that works for you before accepting somebody to connect. I hope that helps you, Marion.
They have not viewed my profile.
Then what I would do is I would, again, look at theirs. Is this somebody I want to connect with? Will this add value for us being connected? I mean, I'm not adding value because I want something out of it, but this is a two-way street. And then if you don't want to connect with them, just ignore it.
Thank you.
Sure.
We probably have time for one last question. Anyone else have a question they'd like to ask?
I hope everybody found this helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you, Howard, for coming. And I think, how can they reach you if they have further questions?
Well, what I would invite you to do is first connect with me on LinkedIn. That'd be the best place. You know, you're going to post this episode up on the on our site for Fielding.
On YouTube and the Fielding site.
And what I would do is you can ask questions there. I will forward the Google search document. We can then share that as well. If I was to leave you for two things, one, use LinkedIn search, learn how to use it, because that's the key to finding content and people. And then I would also look at, what are you creating on your platforms, your websites, your blogs? What can you repurpose on LinkedIn? I mean, it's cost effective, for example, to take a blog that's on your website and turn that into a podcast. And now you have the ability to get it out to multiple platforms, one of which is LinkedIn as well. I would definitely, so come up with a content plan and strategy and how you can incorporate potentially LinkedIn. Maybe you don't want to use LinkedIn, you use Facebook, you do the same thing. And by the way, I think everybody if you're a professional, you should have a LinkedIn profile, because when people start searching for you, they're going to make a split-second decision whether they want to learn more about you and your work.
Well, thanks again, Howard. I think this has been incredibly useful.
Sure.
And if any of your friends would like to watch this webinar, let them know. It will be up on the Fielding webpage. And I do have just a couple of quick announcements just to let you know about some of our upcoming events. You know, twice a month we do these webinars, and you can find out about anything regarding coaching at Fielding at coach.fielding.edu. Again, it's just coach.fielding.edu. Here's the navigation bar, and Howard's webinar will be located here. If you click on Professional Series Webinars, you'll be able to watch Howard's webinar and all the others that we've had. So there's quite a library that we've accumulated. And these Professional Series webinars are helping you with your business or applying coaching out in the world. We also have our Thought Leaders series. The Thought Leaders series webinars are more about research and up and coming new models and theories that are emerging in the world. So if you want to hear from our PhD students who have done research in coaching or other thought leaders in the world, we have special guest speakers. Our last one was around executive coaching trends, research that was done by Brian Underhill at CoachSource. We also have upcoming webinars. So if you want to see anything that we are going to be doing next, you can go to our EBC blog. And it's just fielding.edu/blog and find out all of the neat things that are going on there. We also post articles here as well. The last one was on coaching for inclusive leadership. Our next big event is coming up on May 18th. It's our interview with the editors, innovations in leadership coaching, research and practice. So I highly recommend that you attend that. It's going to be with the editors of our up and coming book, Innovations in Leadership Coaching. We have in that book 19 chapters from a total of 26 different authors. So it's going to be a very exciting book with leading research and coaching and practice in many, many different fields. So we're very excited about our upcoming Fielding book as well. So we hope all of you will be interested in purchasing a copy. If you are interested in getting a free PDF version for writing us a Amazon review, we'll give you the PDF version to pre-read in order to be able to write a review. So we will, if you're interested in that, just send me an email at thehildebrandt@fielding.edu. And if you're interested in reviewing our book, I'll send you the PDF right away. So the book should be out in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Hey, Terry?
Yes.
Can I make one quick shout out? Last Saturday, I think, I interviewed Katrina Rogers on the podcast about her book. And so that'll be up on the website probably in about 2 weeks. So do look out for that.
Wonderful. Look forward to that. We also have one other webinar coming up shortly on May 13th. This webinar is another Thought Leaders webinar on coaching clients on non-financial adjustments in the retirement transition. This webinar is being done by Pauline Johnson Zilonka. She's one of our PhD graduates, and this was her dissertation research. So she specifically helps people deal with these transitions for retirement. A lot of people might be considering that right now, given the new economy we're living in. So if you're coaching anyone in this field, I highly recommend you tune in. And again, that's Wednesday, May 13th from 4 to 5 Pacific. Okay, if you have any other questions for Howard and I, feel free to reach out. And thank you all for coming today. And we look forward to having you on one of our upcoming webinars soon. Have a great Saturday. And thanks again, Howard.
Thank you.
Bye for now.